Welcome everybody to another CTC Software webinar. Today we're going to be talking about Label Genie, which is part of our CIM suite. Thank you for joining us today. If you're watching this live and you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the questions panel and we will get to them at the end of this webinar. And as always, these webinars are recorded to our YouTube channel and will be available shortly after this. So if you want to share them or watch them later, feel free to do so. And if you are watching this on our YouTube channel and you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment pane and we will get back to you. So my name is Tony Crick. I'm the Civil Products Manager here at CTC Software. Label Genie, as I mentioned, it's part of the CIM Project Suite of tools, and it is intended for the everyday Civil 3D user creating design and production drawings. We are currently on version 25.4, which will work back to Civil 3D version 2021, and we are expected to have our 26.0 version out very shortly. And if you are still using version 2021 and you want to upgrade, which we recommend, to our 26.0, we will no longer support Civil 3D version 2021, so be aware of that. What can Label Genie do for you? Label Genie can simplify and expedite the labeling process for your projects to efficiently create and manage labels with consistency, saving time and reducing errors. Today we'll guide you through some setup, usage, and best practices that will help you get the most out of this tool and help streamline your labeling tasks. We hope to have you understand the key features and setups involved with Label Genie today. We're going to learn how that can then automate your labeling in Civil 3D, which will improve your consistency and reduce manual labeling efforts. And then we'll show you how to apply some of the best practices for efficient labeling workflows. And native Civil 3D labeling, we all know, can be time-consuming and tedious. And we use either single or multi-line text, and we do that one at a time. Also with dimension styles, and annotation labels are fairly limited in that they will go where you put them. We don't really have any way to control where we want them to land other than clicking, and Civil 3D styles also are rigid in their XY locations. Label Genie can help with that as well. And then updates are not possible, and you need to delete and replace, which can cause some error if we miss some. So some of the advantages of using Label Genie in some of the ways I just mentioned, they're better than the native annotations. They're mostly quick and easy setups as well. And then your updates are very easy to do by just rerunning the tool. And some of the things are dynamically linked to the specific objects, such as Civil 3D labels for spots, pipe network profiling, pipes, that kind of thing, which will ultimately save on clicks to create multiple labels. And it uses all your present annotation text styles. We have nothing proprietary. It's all whatever you have. So whatever you're using your annotation styles, your Civil 3D style formatting. And we can also label multiple drawings at once. In addition, we can label XREFs, not just the XREF that you see in your drawing, but we can reach into the XREF itself to put labels there. I'm not going to cover those today because we're really just trying to get to know Label Genie. But we have other videos on that if you're interested in that. And this will ultimately automate many of your labeling tasks And like I mentioned before, the labeling is very versatile with our XY offsets. And then we can define specific labels for our labeling needs and save those to a template for later use. So right here is a pretty important thing if you're just getting to know Label Genie, if you haven't used our tool, and even if you have used it before. You can find the capabilities of it here. This is right from the help manual, page 50. And it's our matrix that shows what the label type is, which you see on the right there, screenshot from the tool, and what your anchor objects can then be and where they can be applied. So if we're looking at the alignment station offsets, for instance, we can label 3D polylines, alignments, assemblies, blocks, all of that we can do, and that's limited to plan views. Whereas blocks we can do in plan and profiles and plan, and some other things, multi-leaders, we can do that too. Cross sections we can do. So you look at that if you're having difficulties using a tool for any reason and I can't figure out why it won't take something, maybe it's not the right setup. So with that, let's jump into Civil 3D and walk through this. Okay. Hopefully you can see that out there. Okay, I'm zoomed in there. So for this drawing right here, I have 3 example drawings, and this is a comprehensive overview of it. So we're gonna go through this pretty quickly, but let me first show you that everything we're pulling from here, or with the tool, is coming from anything we have in here. So we see some of our point labeling, surface labeling, spot elevations we'll pull from there. We're going to show a little bit about labeling our pipe networks. So that will be in here, wherever that is. Here's our piping. Here's our structures. So we'll be pulling stuff from there, and you'll see that. In addition to that, in your annotation tab, we pull from everything up here, your text styles, your dimension styles, even your multi-leader styles, everything you have in there, including whatever text you have entered those, is what we will be using with the tool. So it's really just the annotations tab on steroids. If we look at this and we come here as well, we can do everything that's here and more. So as I said before, it's more versatile that way. So it's in the project suite right here, and it in the middle of it here in our general section. And when you first open the tool, it will look like this. And I will note that our labeling templates can be accessed here. And how we get to those is in our options. We path to it here. So wherever you have those, if you have those on your network somewhere, they will path. You can path to those and they'll be available. We also include a number of jumping off templates, which we will use a couple of these today. And they're there for you to edit as you please and then save them. So they're located in your C Users Public CTC Software Label Genie folder. And you can just copy those out of there. You can leave those as they are. Totally up to you, however you want to do it out there. So that's a little bit of our options. That's what that does. Pull down here will also get you at the help. That will pull up the user manual, videos. This will take you specifically to Label Genie videos on our YouTube channel, which I mentioned before, this will be a part of soon. The About button right here will tell you what version you're on. And I actually have 26.0 on there today. And then their licensing and all that stuff. So the first thing we need to do, as we saw in that PowerPoint slide there, is we were looking at the label types here. So these are all of the label types that we have. So we talked about that. Pick one of these. So we'll start with the alignment station right here. And then we see the different things. And now all of these are going to have a different anchor object, as I pointed out in that slide, that if you're having trouble, if you're not seeing something, maybe you have the wrong one or whatever, is it available? So these are all the things that are available there. Here's a little click to get a count on what is involved with this one. And then we have our anchor point as well. These also will change depending on what you use. So centroid, origin, insertion, pretty much the same thing in this case. And then you'll see some of these have a required object. So if we're doing alignment and station, we're going to need an alignment, obviously, to go off of. So I'm going to start by just loading one. Now that one's already ready to go. But if I were to use one that I had in my template folder already, it's just as simple as grabbing it. So I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to load it. And then you'll get this window if you have made changes and you want to save those to a template. If you like what you've done, we give you the opportunity here to do so. Also, if you want to save one after you've made it, you would click the new file right here, and that will take you to wherever your saved path is from your options. So let me grab this one again and I'll load it. And it comes preset. So if you've done everything the same, if your standards are good, you can just click it and tell it to go. But we'll go through this real quick. So here, our anchor object, we want to pick what we want labeled. So here I'm going to grab everything that's on this C veg with the asterisk label. So I might have trees, shrubs, whatever. But if it's prefaced with this, we can put our wildcard on there. That's going to grab everything. We can also grab them individually if we want to. So in this case, it's ready to go. This is the typical thing we might do on a daily basis. So I'm going to let it go to the centroid or the origin and insertion. I'm going to pop that to there for right now. Then we have to select our alignment. This is already selected. That probably wouldn't come with your template because they're all going to be different. But in that case, you would just go grab it. So if I hit the button right here, I can select it like that. And if we wanted to attach things to a site, we have a pull down here for that as well. So now that it's all set up, the next step we want to do, let me go through this too. So this is, we're going to use the current drawing. If I want to use any additional drawings that match all that criteria, I would just click this right here. This is any open drawings that I have. So if I click this button, I should have gotten them. Why I didn't, I don't know. But that will use the open drawings that you have there. And then click the button will add the drawings if you want to remove them. Let me try that one more time. I don't know why that's not coming in. But then you would remove them right here. And then if you want to include XREFs, whether they be in your drawing or otherwise, you can click this little selection right here. And then do I want to label the entire model space? So I am here. We do also give you the option to label in viewports. So you can just go to selected or to the viewports that you have for the drawing. If you have any viewports in your layout tabs down there, we can also limit them to selected layouts. So if I want to do any of these, I can. So I'll give you a lot of options to do that right there. I would think in most cases, you'll be doing it here, but maybe you'll be doing it in your paper space, in a layout space. Totally up to you. And then we can also include which viewports we want to label. So if you have multiple viewports in there, maybe you're doing like a blow up of something, detail of an area, you could just include that little window right there, and it will take care of all of that with your annotation, scaling, and everything attached, which this particular one doesn't have annotation, but we support annotative styles as well. So some of these can be linked fields. If you have linked fields, select that right there, and they will automatically update, so it is dynamic in that case. So everything's loaded. Then we can add some things here if we want, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. We can add some text to this, and this particular one is going to give me a station and offset because that's my label style. That's the only thing I have in there. And then if we wanted to add that text, we would do that there. But being that everything's ready to go, we could just tell it to run. So we're not going to rotate it. This is what I was talking about earlier with the XY, so we can give it some offsetting too. So if you don't like the way it lands with your the style you have selected, instead of picking it and dragging it, we can actually move it with that. So let me just hit add. It's going to add 89 labels to these, all the trees and shrubs we see out there. And that's what it would look like. Now, if I wanted it to be turned or whatever, super simple to do. I don't have to build that into my label style, so it's not limited to that. So I can just come back to my formatting. I can just tell it to go, let's say 45. And now it turned all those to a 45. Additionally, if I wanted to add some text to that, we can do that too. It doesn't have to be in your label style. So if I've got one set up here, another one that I can use a station offset with a note, and I've changed that a little bit from the other one. So if I use that one, now you can see they're on different lines here, which gives me the ability to put them there. Otherwise, it would have had to gone in here somewhere. I could have put a new line. It just maybe wouldn't have looked as good. So if I just change that, and I'm going to put this back to 0, and if I add these, if I wanted to change my label style, I can just hit this. This is the quick and easy update portion of it. So now not only did it change the label style, but it took the other one off. And again, I could have done this to just a select few. And we also have a selection in here to delete the previously placed ones if we wanted. So if I were to have, if I were to have changed just a few of these with a note, I could hit this and we'll take off all of the other ones. Otherwise, it's going to only update the ones that fit all of the criteria. So kind of a handy little button right there. But what if I wanted to add a hunk of text to that? And I can put that right into my template. So let me do that. I've got that actually loaded here. You'll see what that looks like. I'm going to load it. So I've got a station offset on trees with a note. If I tell it to go, it's going to do those same 80. I don't remember if I rotated those or not. I did. And I didn't tell it to delete the previous ones, so it put those on. Should have told it to delete them. I'm just going to do a select similar and delete it. If I would have clicked that, that would have made that go. But what I really want to show here, I'm going to put them back on there. Here is that we can have a note built into these that we can edit or take it as is, and we can turn that on and off if we so choose. So if I come back to my formatting and I come to my offset side, that's my labels, that's in my label style, and you see I put another hunk of text in here that says to preserve. I could pick these individually if I wanted to, but to make that show up, I just hit the text override. And we have these buttons down here to replace, so it would just replace that, or it can append it, put it at the end, which is what I've done, or prepend it, which will put it at the beginning. A few more options that are in there. And then I can just tell it to add again, and it will update and it will add that note to that label. So lots of versatility built into not just station offset labeling, but most of them have that aren't text related. So the next thing let's look at here, some dimensioning. So we said we can do, I'm trying to go right down the list here. So we said we can do multiple dimensioning too. Before I do that, let me show you one more time. Up here, our dimensions. So here's our dimension styles. Here's the styles that are available. These three, I can choose from any of those. So let me come back to Label Genie. Let's open up Label Genie. And then let's load another template that I have made for these. Which one was it? This one. So dims on buildings for this one. I modified this. This one comes with the install. And I just edited it to do these pad segments down here. So you see it changed right away to dimensions, and they're polylines, but I think these in this case are feature lines. So let's see what we have. So see, I have nothing, which I need to edit this to make that work if you're using that. Now I made another one here, 1A for the lot pads. That comes pre-populated for these feature lines. What we're going to do is we're just going to label the segments or dimension the segments for an example of those feature lines for those pads. And here's all the things we can dimension with it. So a lot of different options. And now, again, our anchor point has changed. And we get at what do we want. It's going to be line segments. We can include curves and lines if we want, or just lines. More options there. And then I noted that those three were available. I'm picking this one, and I'm setting just a Y offset to have it go 5 drawing units away from any one of these pad lines. Hopefully you can see. And then we can click to have them be annotative here if that's built into our style. Then we just tell it to run. It's going to put 204 labels on, dimension labels on all at once. So something like this where the straight line segments are well defined and things work pretty much the same, we end up with something like this. Now I didn't do all of these pads, but I sure could have, just in the interest of time, but you see what it did. So use that style, put everything in there, and I don't have to do anything else to those. So that's dimension styles. What's next on the list is some general note stuff. So we can get at our general notes too, right there. And I have made one for this particular scenario. And this is going to pull from a general note label style that I have created to put on feature lines. So feature lines are not the easiest thing natively. Did I tell it to load? Natively to do something like this that I found, but this takes care of it very easily. So I can do all of these. Again, my object count, I've got 117. That's going to do all of these. My vertices, again, I have another selection here. I'm going to tell it to go at the point of intersections, the begin and the end. So everywhere we see on that dimension, we should get an elevation. And this does not involve the surface at all. It's just pulling all of the data right from those feature lines. Let me use this as one. I will leave it at that 15 rotation, and then It comes pre-populated with the elevation from my label style, and I can just tell it to go again. 632 labels. So every one of these it's going to do, and it'll take, I don't know, 30 seconds-ish to go and find all these and put those labels on. Now, they won't probably all be perfect how you want them, but it gets really close. It takes a lot of the clicking out of there if that's what you want to do. So here's how they landed. You can turn those again however you want, but that's what that did. So that's a little bit about general noting. You can use just general notes for other things too, to put a, if you want to call it house pad, let's just say in the center of all of these. You could tell it to go with the centroid of it and just change your note for that. What's the next one that's on the list? Probably line curve. Let's see what's next on the list. I'm going to try to get to at least most of these today. Some of them are kind of self-explanatory. So the next one is line curve. Again, I have one here. These come with the install, and I'm going to pick this one straight off of there. And again, it comes already populated to go. Now we are down to just segments, how we want those to go. Again, the line curve. But we really don't need to do anything to make these go. And now this is pulling right from our line curve styles from our tree, our tool space tree over there. And again, we're ready to go. Let's just go back to show how we did this again, just to show you how that works. Now you see we have some more limited selections for this. And I'm picking on the layer, side lots, all of these lot lines here to get a bearing and distance on them. So I tell it to go 121 labels. Now we've got bearing and distance on all of those, and they're not limited to, that's just a polyline. You would not be able to do that in multiple natively. So other thing we can do, we can put a front dimension on those lot lines if this is something you typically do. I'm going to go ahead and load right from what we get with the tool. This 108 segment labels on fronts. You can call them whatever you want. So again, we've got the same thing, the same polyline segment on the front from this layering. And the segments, everything being the same. A little different here is we picked another style that's just showing us the distance between those two, and we can add that. So lots and lots of versatility built into this to get things done more quickly. And there we see those are all put on there. And I'll run one more for a typical bearing and elevation, or bearing and distance for this right-of-way line, which again comes with it in this 100 series. So it's this one right here. Just load it up, save and run, everything the same, tell it to go. And now we placed all of those labels as well. So a couple other things we can do. We can put some multi-leaders on here. Let's do that one. So we're coming right down the list. Whoops, that's my template. Coming right down the list here. So now we're going to go to the multi-leader portion of this, and I'm going to load another template that I have created for this one. Actually, that one comes with it too. So we'll load that. Don't save. Everything changed, and now we're going to see some other things changed here about what we can put a multi-leader on. So any of these we can put a multi-leader on. So the blocks, and then the same type of selection. This manual update is if you moved one of the labels and didn't want it to change or you wanted a couple of them to change. So you would click this, and then you would have to click this right here to go select. I don't have any in here, but that's what that's intended to do. So that if you have it in a good place where it shows up and you don't want it to move, but you want something else about it changed, you can do that. So I'm going to leave this at the origin. And then this didn't, we can do this one. That's right. Multi-leaders we can do in any of these. So then back to the formatting right here. So this one is a keynote circle. And with that, we have two things here. We have description. I could add the description to it. I can add the block number. That comes right from here. I can make that whatever number I want. Same with the description. So I'm just going to leave it at 2. It comes populated with that. So maybe you're pointing these out in a situation where you're using keynotes all over and defining those in a legend scenario. And then the X, Y offsets the same. I can just tell it to add. And my other ones are in the way there, but they are right there. Let me just get those out of there. Okay, so then if we see something like that, we don't really like the way that looks, I can go ahead and I can fix that. So for this particular one, it didn't look good like that, and so we can change one of these. I'm going to guess that. Let's try 8, and let's just update them. If I say OK right here, then I come back, and I got that from somebody else maybe, and it doesn't fit for me. Now I can go ahead and I can write right over top of that. So if I tell it to save right here, and it was this number 2120, not 21, this one. So I'm just going to overwrite that. Save, yes. Then I'll close, and just to show you, I will delete these out of there. Oops. Let me delete these. Because otherwise you won't see a change. Let me get those out. And if I come back and I go ahead and load that template, so if it was 120 right there, if I load that, don't save. If we come back to our formatting, we see that now that's 8, how we wanted it. Oh, and they didn't fix. Oh, okay. Well, it takes a simple adjustment like we saw there. Okay. Next, let's go to some of our pipe labeling here. Let me open Label Genie. These are a little more involved, but all of these labels were put in using the tool, every one of these, and they are dynamic, so if anything changes, and one of the recent additions to it is that we can put multiple labels on here. So if you wanted to have just the information for a profile one, let's just say, and you want the name on here separate, you could do that. It doesn't have to be built into your style. But for this one, we're going to load. Again, I have created one ahead of time. I'm going to just load that one, and then we're going to step through how these work. I did say that they're a little more complicated as far as setup goes. So ideally, make a template for it. And this might change depending on what you call your pipe network. Again, we can just come and select it, and it tells you how many pieces of that network are available to get labeled. And the view type in this case is we're going to put them all in the plan. And the formatting is the part where it gets a little different. So for this, we want to do our style mapping. So I want to open this up, and I'm going to do that storm right here. Now these came already populated from my template, as long as everything matched for the structures and the pipes, so I don't need to do anything to them. But this is how you do it. You can open those up, and we can have, let me stretch this out a little bit. So we can have different labels for different structures as well. If we have it the default, we can set the default, but we can pull any label style we have for those for any individual structure, in this case, that we want labeled. So all these are going to be a little different. And if we look at our pipes, we have some existing that are different. Where is that one? Here, maybe. So I have existing. So I set this to existing plan style. And we're going to see a different style there. I'll show you that in a second. So I defaulted for all of these, but this is an existing pipe, and an existing pipe came with the design or the survey or however it got in there. So we want a little different style on those. So that gives the versatility of how we can do these things. So if I say OK right here, and it's this right here, this hunk of existing, hopefully you can see that, tell it to add. It's going to add 49 labels all at once. OK. And these locations are driven by the label style. So I have different label styles for the storm versus the sanitary, as we see here. And then the existing gets a different text type. So we take care of all of that at once. And then, like I said, the location of those are controlled mostly by your label style. We can push those around here if we want to. So we do have more formatting options with those as well. So one more thing as we're moving along here in time. A couple of other things we can do with this. We can do some surface labeling. So all of the surface labeling we can do with the annotation tab. We can also do with Label Genie. Oh, did I miss? I think I might have missed something for section. Let's talk about this section or this profiling stuff. Let me bop back. I digress. Let's go back to this one again, and then some of the other things we can do inside of our profiles. We can add some options in here to put, like if we wanted to put for an electric volt, then we can label it, of course, like this. And this is just a P line. If it was drawn into our profile here manually, I can put station offsets onto those as well. So if I want to locate that, or if I had a hydrant that I dropped in there, that kind of thing. So we have other options available for that. And I did make one earlier today for this one. So profile views, station offsets, P lines. Now this isn't one that comes with it, but they're easy enough to make. So all it did was it pulled from this different label type here. So now we're in profile views and station and elevation. So it already knows to go get that and the styles you're going to use. And in this case, I'm doing polyline. I said before we can We can do it on blocks if you have a block, and there are other things here. And I picked all these by layer again. So it's all of these that we see in these specific profile views. And the other thing we have right here now, it's going to pull all of these if I do that, but I could pick these individually. So it's going to find anything that's on this layer profile view, of which it says there's 8 of them, which is also going to include the main profiles that we were looking at before. But I could pick these individually if I just wanted to do, say, that one. Let me just do that. So if I cleared that and I just wanted to do that one, I could pick just that one, pick that one, and tell it to go. Everything else being ready to go, it's going to pull this style, again, from these that we have available, and I'm just going to tell it to add them. I should have noted, too, that we have this layering, too, where you can set the layer and have it be, some of these I got them set by drawing to my drawing standards, but they're dropped in a station and an offset to where these corners are. Maybe you needed to stake those in the field, but you see they didn't put those on here. And the 8 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I want to do all of them, and then I don't have any of those in there, so that doesn't hurt anything to do that. Let me back up and let's do that one more time, and I'm going to include that by the layer. Profile view. I always clear this. You don't have to, but I think we know Civil 3D can be finicky sometimes in what they pick. So now we see the same 8 right there. Say OK, add. So it's going to add 24 and update the 4. And there's nothing to update. It's just going to take them off and replace them. So tell it to go yes, say OK. And now they've all been done in all of these individual profile views. Okay, and we can do that too, again, with this. If this was the block and we want to put it at the centroid, whatever we want to do. But the different options, things we can do too with labeling. And I don't know if we're going to get time, but we can do some of the same stuff in our sections, a little bit more limited to the sections. Doing this stuff we can do some pipe labeling in there. However, we have to do those pick 'em kind of thing there because we don't have it limited to that yet. But the same functionality exists there. So let me go to get to our surface labeling as we're getting low on time. So now our surface labeling is the same as from your annotation tab, pulling the same stuff. We have them separated out similar to what they have. So let me load some of these, and these do come with it in the 300 series. All of our surface stuff is here. So I'm going to do, first let's do the contour label. So that's this one at interval. I'm going to load that one up. So again, it puts it to that. If you want to do that manually, it's the only thing available for this one. And vertices, yes. And what this one will do is it will allow you to put them at spaces. You can put them at midpoint. You can do a lot of different stuff on how these get placed. I'm just going to leave that there. It's going to put them on. It's going to be fairly quick, but now we have our required object again. So we want to make sure we have our surface. It's ready to go. And we come to our formatting. And now in this case, we want to set proposed major and minor. I don't know why that doesn't have the minor set to it. or the user style. I can set that to, I'll just put that on standard. We don't have any. And then the layering is going to come by the style in this case. So use drawing settings. And if I tell it to go, it's going to put on 231 at 50-foot intervals along all of my contour lines. And they're the exact same label that you would get if you did it natively, with the exception that I can take them off, put them on more quickly. I don't know what that warning was, but it doesn't matter because it worked right there. Well, not favorable to those styles, but that's the way it is. So what else? Surface slopes. We can do some sloping. So if I wanted to put some surface slopes on these lot lines here, for example, let's do that. So one more that I have created comes right with it. 3.0, and I think I have done some editing to these. Very simple to edit. So these should be ready to go. So I'm going to go feature lines in this case for all of the lot lines. And my segments is all that's available here, but lines and curves is now available. And then we need the surface so it knows what slope. We've got that. Again, everything's ready to go. My style, I'm just going to do, in this case, percent. I could do any one of these and just tell it to add them. It's going to put 361 slope arrows on along these feature lines, which are surface driven, by the way. They're not driven by the feature line in this case. They're just finding those to place them, and they're pulling right from the surface. So if we look at those, we see it put all of those labels on. So we see some of these changed, and it's 2 spots, so it's reading the vertices. It's a 2 spot, so it's reading between these segments here. All right, and one more, we'll just do some spot labels from the surface. And we're getting low on time. We can investigate the sections if we have a little more time. Let me load this one. So this, again, comes right from the install. Go ahead and load it. Now we're pulling the surface spot right here. I do want to show you this surface on a grid before we leave too. So spots, the feature lines, again, I'm going to pull all of the lot lines with my asterisks. So these are all different lot lines, and the asterisk is going to let me grab all of those at once. Again, we need the surface to pull from. We have that. Check our formatting. Good. Elevation only. Rotation 90. And some of these I should have mentioned before are set to what is the orientation? To the object, to the view, to the UCS. So I'm going to set this to the object, so when it finds these, it's going to go perpendicular at 90 to all of those with no offset. And the marker style I have set to, I have available marker styles for those, and in this case, the circle with the cross. $479 labels. I don't know how much labeling we did today in the hour, but we put a lot of labels on. So you see that these are turned to the object. So if I want all these to read 90 from the object, if I wanted to give those a little bit of a turn too, I could. So if I want to go, let's change it to 30, again to the object, and just redo them. We're going to see these now aligned to that object with a 30-degree angle versus perpendicular to it at 90 as we had. So that's a lot of labels to do in a short amount of time. Okay, maybe 30 wasn't the best, but you get the idea there. Okay. Let me go back to this one. We've got a little bit of time here. Let's look at some of these section ones. I didn't think I would have time for these today, but let's look at some of those very quickly here and see what we can do there. Because some of these I think have come with the install. And I've made some in the past. Let me see if I can find one here. Well, let's try that one from scratch then. I don't see one right offhand, but let's set one. So in this case, let's do a offset elevation in a section view. So what we have is we have these polylines, and then the section views are required. So let's see what, so we do have the vault still hanging in there. I'm going to go ahead and use that. These are going to hold to the last time you did it, by the way. So then the vertices, again, we'll do the same as we did before. Section views, cleared that. Let's see if I can grab these by layer. So now we've got 31. Seems about right. And then offset over elevation. I don't see them. I went somewhere. But that's what that one's for. So it's a little more limited than some of our other stuff. But that's what it will do. Let me try that one more time. Oh, do I see one down there? Maybe. I might clear that. Let me just pick one, like this guy right here. See what happens. So this is going to update for. So it must be going on a layer that is froze. There they are. Ooh, those don't look good. But there they are. They were just on a frozen layer, C road section text. So they were all there. Very ugly, admittedly, very ugly. That style needs to be worked on. But that's how that one works. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining us today. If you don't have our tools and you'd like to get them, you can go to ctcsoftware.com. And as always, if you have any ideas or need any help, visit our support page. We build all of our tools for you from suggestions by you to help make your life easier and more efficient.